Once again, everyone, trigger warning. We do not have a screener. We just have an automated screener. So anything can get said. All right. Justin, you are on with Ethan and Jenna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thank you.
Hey, Justin.
What do you got for us?
What's up, Jenna?
It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to call in because you guys brought up a few key points with something that, hits big in my life. And that's one, the prior military. So I have post-traumatic stress disorder from multiple different events. And to tag along with that, the mindset that I had for such a long time that I'm a man and I just need to suck it up and get over,
Right.
the issues that I was having. So I figured if you guys wanted to, we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How have you learned to cope? Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. What's your question?
How have you learned to cope with your trauma, or what coping mechanisms do you use?
So I think my biggest coping mechanism that I have is my wife. Because this post-traumatic stress disorder that I have is due from spending time overseas in Afghanistan. It was a bad time. A lot of stuff happened. She doesn't even know half of what happened. I just don't really talk about the gritty details, but it's affected our life. It's affected our home life. It's affected our, ability to go out and have fun and do fun things. Like, for example, going to festivals, like big crowds. I always have this, I don't know if you could call it superstitious thought that somebody's just walking behind me ready to stab me with a knife. Or if I'm in a restaurant, we have to pick the back booth and I have to be in a corner to where I can see the rest of the restaurant. And if we don't have the ability to do that, I am just sitting there uneasy, supposed to be enjoying my family and enjoying my time, but I just can't because I think that something's about to happen. And it definitely it weighs heavy on our family time and going to festivals, going to conventions, things like that, just big groups of people, big noises, and not being able to visualize the entire room. It's stuff that people normally they take for granted. They don't think about it. And because of what I've been through, it's created this issue within how we conduct our daily lives.
First of all, Justin, I am sorry that you have to deal with that. And I also want to thank you for your military service. And while I can't, relate to what you've been through with that, right when you said like keeping your back in the booth, you hit me because I don't know what caused it for me, but I have the same problem. When I go on a date, whether I'm with anybody, with a friend, I always have to keep my back against the wall. Anytime I've told people that, they're like, were you in the military? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, were you running from the mob or something? I'm like, no. I just I think it came from the bar industry because there was constantly like fights breaking out. So to me, I always have to be like on edge and ready to go in case something happens. And I also like if someone comes up from behind me and like grabs my shoulder quickly, I like instantly like have like a physical, like, I don't want to say violent, but I have like an angry reaction for a split second. Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah. Actually, I was at a car wash the other day. I do air conditioning and heating. And I was at a car wash replacing a blower motor on one of their heaters. And I guess one of their guys that normally like press buttons and get the car started in the automated car wash came running past me. And I about just knee-jerk reaction about just punched him in the face because it was a defense mechanism. Right. I know exactly what you're talking about. It comes out of they come out of nowhere, and then my knee-jerk reaction also comes out of nowhere. And I feel like I need to defend myself because somebody's rushing up behind me. Right. And once again, I think that they're coming to stab me in the back or something. I totally understand.
Yeah, it's so scary and people don't understand it. Like, and one of the things like I dealt with in the bar is drunk women would have a habit of like running up and smacking me on the ass when I'm like in the middle of DJing. And I can't tell you how like infuriating that is to just, you're like in the zone, you're focused on something, and then all of a sudden you just get this wham. It's like, what? Why would you do that to somebody? It's instant friggin' anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That's sexual
Yeah,
assault.
I totally understand. What's up, Jenna?
Well, I'm just wondering, you say that y'all have to avoid festivals, and I can understand things like that because of the crowds and just having to be aware of so many things. I wonder, and again, not professional, but I wonder if you've had any experience with any kind of like exposure therapy.
Honestly, I've had no therapy whatsoever. Well, no, I shouldn't say no therapy. I did see a therapist once I got out of the military. It was almost mandatory for somebody who was in service and went overseas. So I spoke with somebody a few times about it, but typically at first it pulls into the second point you guys brought up, was that I was like, I'm a man. I just need to get over this. I need to be self-aware and not let this affect my entire life. And eventually, after a certain period of time, it just wasn't working. Like, this psychological issue that I'm having overplayed my own ability to control my own psyche. So that's why I said I found my wife to be a very strong helper when it came to these issues, because she let me know it was okay. It was okay to cry.
Right.
It was okay
Yes.
to get upset. It was okay to express my feelings rather than taking constant traumatic events during the day that typically people don't experience, and bottling it up and actually release it and tell her about it and talk about it. And even though in the moment you're like, I don't want to talk about this, like, it's already affected me enough. I don't want to have a conversation about it. But it actually does help. It actually brings out the ability to try to focus on better things. And my wife has definitely been there to take I guess you could say, the masculinity complex out of me, to be able to let me feel and to be able to let me release all this anger. And I could say I'm scared a lot of the times for no actual reason. It's just my own brain telling me that something's about to go wrong.
So, now, if I'm understanding everything that I've learned about this correctly, what trauma is when your body overrides conscious thought and it goes directly to subconscious thinking, like, for example, your heart beating. That's not something that you think and control. It is when your subconscious takes over to control you because your life is in danger. At least that's the impression that you've gotten.
Yeah.
Or you're about to experience some serious pain or something. It's like serious stuff. So from my impression and from my experience with exposure therapy type stuff is that, especially that, this is why it's so helpful to have like a steady partner of some sort, at like a wife or a husband or something, is because if you can possibly be exposed to whatever it is that's triggering you, whatever it is that's reminding you of what it is that traumatized you. And then you can also have somebody like your wife there with you to help ground you and keep you in the moment and be like, okay, this reminds me of that experience that was horrible, but she reminds me that I'm here and I'm actually safe. If you do that enough times to where you actually expose yourself to being triggered with a person or in an environment to where you are safe and you're capable of reminding yourself of that and not actually traumatizing yourself further. If you do this is what professionals are for, but this is what they do, is they re-expose you to teach your subconscious, hey, guess what? You're actually not in danger anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens too. My wife definitely she knows a lot about psychology and sociology. So she knows kind of how the brain works and why people think what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I've told her many times that she needs to get into criminology and become part of the behavioral analysis unit with the FBI. But
That sounds fun.
It's definitely a skill of hers, and she definitely helps me out on a daily basis when it comes to these problems. Like, when I'm on,
Good.
when I'm on my YouTube channel, you guys have both been on there before. It's all fine and dandy, and there are times to where I do get anxiety because I have this feeling that maybe somebody that I had an encounter with overseas or something would catch it and be able to figure out where I live and then come and hurt me and my family. But my wife brings out the good points, and she definitely, exactly what you said, Jenna. She grounds me in the moment to where I can realize that, hey, this is my brain, playing tricks on me. I'm safe. My family's safe. We're good to go.
Right.
I have a question, EA. Well, first of all, dude, that is really good that your wife is so supportive of this and helpful. It's important to have a partner that can do that for you. Would you say activism in any way negatively impacts your mental health, in the sense that, like, what I've noticed, the longer it appears people have been atheist YouTubers, they tend to get more defensive and more like ready to go. Does that happen to you? Does it impact your PTSD in any way from constantly having to like defend your belief?
Well, here's my best way to answer this question. So it's the Empathetic Atheist show that I do, and
you're very empathetic
for that.
Yes.
Yes. So to be able to have conversations with people without having that giant defense mechanism there, to be able to just have a good conversation. Now, there are times to where I do have guests on that are theists or Christians, and they say things that, I just want to turn into R and Raw and just rip their argument apart, without any remorse or any empathy at all. And I think that does build up. And I have a group of friends that I speak with outside of the show to where it's a little bit more engaging on an aggressive level, not to the point where we're throwing ad hominems and calling people names, because it doesn't matter what situation you're in. That's not useful to the conversation. But right. I do have groups of friends to where things do get more aggressive and things, and I think that's somewhat of a release. And they know this, and they know that I love them, and they know that that I'm there for them, and that I would love to keep having conversations with them, and with me not calling them names and insulting them, just being a little bit more aggressive with them than I normally am on the show. Sometimes I let some questions on the show or some comments made on the show, I let them slide, just because I know that it's going to get possibly into a dumpster fire of some sort. Right. And that's not the point of the show. So I do find a release outside of the show with a certain group of friends that understand exactly what that means.
Okay, well, yeah, that's good. I find my brother will actually get like the brunt end of my, well, not that he will, like I'll vent to him. I'll be like, this damn person called in, they were saying this, it made no sense, and I'll be like freaking out on him, and he's like, you didn't say that to them, did you? I'm like, no, I'm just venting right now because I'm annoyed. But sometimes you have to get that out, that frustration. But it's better not to get it out on the person you're talking to.
Yeah, and I think that also comes with practice, kind of like exposure therapy would. Just like I think as much as some people say that Matt's lost his temper over the years, I think that he's doing a remarkable job at keeping his cool, considering how many conversations he has had,
right,
like what we hear every week. I mean, I do it once a month, and I'm having trouble, and I've been doing it a year and a half. He's been doing it for almost 20. And so I think that the reason that he is able to stay so calm is because of practice. It practice exposing yourself to those conversations that get your blood pressure going.
Right.
but also reminding yourself that there's no reason to get worked up, and slowing yourself down and removing yourself if you have to get your blood pressure down, because at that point you're operating on fight or flight. You're not using your logical thinking part of your brain anymore. You're trauma responsive. So if you can practice,
and that's also something good for any other YouTuber out there that has conversations with people that have different views, or you get into arguments or debates or things like that, is that you just I do 7 shows a week. And
Wait,
that's
you
a
do?
lot of shows. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I do a interview and an after party every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then on that Saturday, before the interview and after party, I do a Bible study to where I have Jews, Mormons, Christians, Richard Mattson, whatever he is, and multiple other people on. So it's 7 shows where there's people that have different views than I do. And a lot of the times it's great and peaceful and whatnot, but a lot of times, my mental health can start to get affected by doing this many shows. And I actually just recently brought it down to just Tuesdays and Saturdays instead of Thursdays. So for anybody that's like, I started my show up in the middle of the pandemic. So I wasn't working at the time and I didn't have anything else to do with my day. And now I'm back at work and still doing 7 shows a week. And I can see that it starts to play with my mental health. So just a reminder to anybody that's doing a YouTube show to where they have the same type of environment, just do exactly like Jenna said, expose yourself to it slightly. I think Jenna's doing a great job. She does 1 show a month, and that gives her the ability to get exposed to it. And if she so chooses to do more, or she chooses to walk away from it, either way, she's in a perfect spot to where she can judge, what her mental state is due to having these types of programs.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, EA, we definitely don't want you to get burnt out. We want the EA show to keep going. So if you have to take a show away before you burn yourself out, if you need to.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I've done. We've taken away the Thursday shows.
Okay.
So we're just doing a interview and after party on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and then the Bible study is before the Saturday shows.
I should really start joining that Bible study. That would probably be really helpful for me.
We maybe get about 3 verses, and we've done 17 hours worth of conversation, and we're only at the beginning of Genesis 4.
Oh, okay.
So the entire hour-long conversation, we really dig into each verse and pick apart every single word. So it's very slow paced, but I believe that it helps. I believe that it helps me get a better understanding of all different kinds of faith. So I would love you to join. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be a great learning opportunity. EA, I do want to thank you for calling in. We got a couple other callers we get to, but if you could, tell us where everyone can check you out at?
Thank you very much. So if you just go to YouTube and you type in the EA show or Empathetic Atheist show, I should be one of the top ones that pop up. I think for most people that I've seen them look it up, I'm typically right there at the top of the search bar. And go there, like and subscribe if you like the content, and if anybody is interested, whether theist or atheist, on coming on, shoot me a message. All the links to my Facebook and everything are inside of the descriptions of all the videos. And enjoy.
Thank you, EA. Appreciate you calling in. And,
I love what you do.
Yeah, agreed. But I meant to ask you this earlier. Have you ever considered actually going back to a therapist?
Yes, off and on. I'm still waiting to kind of see how my new insurance is playing out and how that's going to work. Financially within this pandemic, work has been very slow. So I'm definitely trying to watch my financial status. And once I am comfortable, I think that I might actually go and see somebody, because my wife has been able to work down this man complex that I have, to where I just need to puff my chest out and say everything's okay. So
Good for you.
I'm working towards getting help with that.
Good. Well, I can say this. Oz from the Atheist Roundtable can recommend a very good secular therapist. I finally got my appointment scheduled, so I should be starting that within the next I think it's mid-December. I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, if you can't get that person, then the Secular Therapy Project, obviously, as I'm sure you've heard, recommended on the Atheist Experience many times. But for anybody else who hasn't, the Secular Therapy Project is a good source that you can go to find somebody who's not going to be pushing, well, just go home and pray about it.
Right.
And I recommend psychotherapy personally, just from my own experience. Psychotherapy is when they use kind of asking you questions and allowing you to answer things for yourself so that you can hear it, kind of like using straight epistemology, but on yourself in therapy. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate you guys taking my call.
No, thanks.
I'm glad you could call.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
And I hope you get to be able to go to festivals soon.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully once everything opens back up and we can be a little bit more comfortable being around large groups of people. Definitely looking forward to it.
Awesome, EA. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Justin.
You also. Thank you.
Oh, crap. I hit it.